Hey, and welcome to section 8.8. This is all about translating English phrases and algebraic expressions. So let's get into it, y'all. Okay. So when we're considering, translating English phrases into algebraic expressions, let's take a look at these first. Um, oh, sorry about that, y'all. These first phrases here. So we have a number plus 3, 3 added to z, the sum of z and 3, 3 more than a number, and z increased by 3. So, first of all, what operation do you believe these statements are talking to us about? Now that we've considered what operation these statements are talking about, what do you think the algebraic expression would look like? So, the algebraic expression in all of these would be some number z plus 3. Now, here's my next question. Could we write that as 3 plus z? So, addition is commutative, which means commutative means that we can write this in either direction. So this could be written as 3 plus z. Let's look at our next one. Our next one is the product of 3 and x. 3 times a number. 3 multiplied by the number represented by x. What operation do you feel is being used here? Now that you've given a guess on what operation, what do you think the algebraic statement would be for these three English statements? So, in this case, since we are talking about the product of 3 and x, 3 times a number, or 3 multiplied by the number represented by x, that is multiplication. And it is going to be 3 times x. And typically, when we are writing a number and a variable being multiplied together, we just write them side by side. We really don't put an operation between them. So let's look at the next one. Okay, so the next one here, let me actually go full screen on this. There we go. Okay, so the next one here, okay, twice the sum of x and 1. The product of 2 with the sum of x and 1. 2 times the quantity found by adding a number to 1. So take a minute and think about what this algebraic statement is going to look like. So if we're talking about twice the sum of x and 1, we are going to have 2 times some sum of x plus 1. Okay? And also, when you see the quantity found, that statement there, we're talking about something that's sitting inside of parentheses. Okay? And now let's look at the next one. Twice x plus 1. The sum of twice x and 1. 2 times x increased by 1. one more than the product of 2 and a number. So my first question is this the same or different than the one above it? This is actually very different because this is saying that we are giving 2 times x and then increasing by 1. And it is a very different statement from the one above it. And our next one, the difference between 5 times a number and 3, 3 less than the product of a number and 5 times a number minus 3 subtracted from 5n, or 5 multiplied by a number less 3. So take a minute. What operation do you think is happening here? So for all of these, there are 2 operations happening in here. We do have where we see the keyword times, that's multiplication. And when we see the keywords difference, less than, minus, we're looking at subtraction. So take a minute and think about what that algebraic statement would look like for these. And for these, the difference between 5 times a number and 3. Well, we have 5 times some number, subtract 3. All right, now let's look at the next one. The quotient of a number and 6, n divided by 6, and the ratio of a number and 6. So we heard this word ratio before when we were talking about number systems, and we talked about the rational numbers and having that root word ratio. And if you recall, ratio, it kind of looks like a fraction. Um, so there are actually a couple of ways that we can write this. Take a minute and see if you can come up with a couple of ways to write this. So a couple of ways that we can write this when we have the quotient of a number and 6. We have some number and 6. Okay, we can write it that way. It looks like a fraction or a ratio. We can also say that we have n divided by 6. And we can also say that we have n divided by 6. Okay. Now the next 2 are very, very similar. We have the square of a number and the cube of a number. Or we can say a number squared or a number cubed. So this is what we're talking about exponents. So we have some number and it is squared. Okay? Or we have some number and it is cubed. All right, so let's practice these next 5. So take a few minutes and see if you can write the algebraic expression for each of these. All right, so the product of a number and 5. Well, remember product, we're going to be multiplying. 3 less than 5 times a number. Well, we have 5 times some number, and we want 3 less than that. The quotient of a number and 6. The square of a number and the cube of a number. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are paying attention to some common errors. Addition and multiplication are both commutative. You can multiply or add either way. 2 plus 3 is the same as 3 plus 2. But subtraction is not commutative. So 8 minus 1 is not the same as 1 minus 8. And same thing with division. That is not commutative either. All right, so let's look at translating algebraic phrases into, or algebraic expressions into English phrases. So the first one, we have 5x. What would that be written in and as an English phrase? Well, one thing that we could say that this is the product of 5 and a number. How about the next one? 2n plus 8. What would be an English phrase for that? Well, this one, we could say twice a number n increased by 8. There are many other ways that we can say these. These are just ways that I'm coming up with in my own head. All right, and how about the next one? 3 open parentheses, a minus 2 close parentheses. What would be our English phrase for that? Well, if it were me, I would say that this is 3 times the quantity of a number minus 2. Okay. So we have a couple more examples here to practice. Okay. So take just a minute and work through these three and post your answers. All right. So let's see. This first one, maybe I would say 7 times a number less 4. Maybe I would say this one, the quantity of a number plus 5 divided by 3. And maybe this last one I might say 4 times the quantity of a number plus 1. Okay. Now, we can also look at translating equations into word problems. Okay. So for this one, 5x plus 10 equals negative 10. Come up with your own word problem for that. It can be anything. We can be talking about selling carnival tickets. We can be talking about buying ice cream, whatever. Be creative. Make up your own problem. Okay? So, I look forward to seeing you all next time. Please reach out if you have any questions. Please continue to work in Hawks. I am here to help, so let me know what I can do to help you.